Now, we tend to see inventory dip a little bit around the holidays as well. Lots of sellers don't want to be bothered with traffic in and out, and they think that people just don't buy homes in the winter. I am here to tell you, yes, we still have people that purchase houses in the wintertime. In fact, most people take their houses off the market. If you're one of those few houses that are on the market, you're going to have less competition, and buyers tend to make a little bit quicker decisions in the winter. Nobody likes schlepping out there in the -2 degrees if they're not serious about buying a home. So that's what's going on in Hinckley. I want to talk about interest rates because everybody is talking about this, right? And is the market going to crash? And we're seeing some very different markets throughout the country. So we've got states that really are in a very, very strong buyer's market. They have a lot more inventory than we've seen, and we're just not there yet. We're still a pretty strong seller's market. Do we have pockets where they're a little bit more balanced? Sure, we do, but it is not uncommon for a very good looking, well-priced home to sell very, very quickly. And we still do see multiple offers. In addition to multiple offers, we also see houses having price reductions. Okay, so it really truly depends on how that house is positioned on the market right off the rip. So how are interest rates playing into that? So a lot of talk about the Fed dropping rates this week. Okay, so that's what everybody's anticipating. But that doesn't necessarily mean that mortgage rates will drop with that, with the Fed cut. Okay, most people think that's the way it works. That's not the way it works. So my good friend Marshall Kutz of Amco Lending, he puts out an update every week between him and his partner, his business partner. They put out this kind of rate update every week that kind of keeps us informed of what's going on. And I just thought, what he put out this week was really brilliant and very clear. So I'm going to try to do it justice. So people assume that the mortgage rates are going to go down with the Fed cuts. That's not necessarily true. In fact, we've seen the opposite several times recently, that the Fed will drop the rate and then actually mortgage rates go up. So here's what's really going on. So the Fed doesn't directly control mortgage rates. The Fed changes the short-term rate, or what banks charge each other. Now, mortgage rates, however, follow long-term bond yields. So, and those already moved based on what the market expects before the Fed even cuts the rate. So if the Fed says, hey, it's looking like we're gonna cut the rate, mortgage rates tend to react preemptively to that news. So once the Fed actually cuts the rate, a lot of times we don't see the dip that everybody's anticipating. In fact, sometimes we see the interest rates on mortgages actually go up. So by the time the Fed officially announces the rate cut,